Hello, I'm Nick Park from Evangelical Alliance Ireland, and this is our weekly message. It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. Even though we're just past Christmas and the New Year, already we can see the seasons are changing. I love the changing seasons. Some people, they would want it to be summer all the time. I just love the way the seasons change one to another. And even though it's only, 3 weeks into the new year, already we're seeing the evenings getting lighter, and I've even got daffodils poking through the frost in the patio at the back of my house in County Louth. And, it made me think, as the Church of Jesus Christ here in Ireland, we've been through a bit of a spiritual winter. The last few years, what with COVID and the uncertainty that followed it, and all the inflation and the war in Ukraine and everything else, it has been a strange time. But we are now seeing signs, and I'm getting reports all across the country of some really encouraging developments that the Church of Jesus Christ of all denominations here in Ireland is moving into a new season. There's 3 things in particular that I'm seeing. One of them is a renewed emphasis on prayer. Now, I know lots of churches always do prayer initiatives in January for the new year, but I've seen so much more enthusiasm and take up on these initiatives in churches this year. In the church that I pastor for nearly 3 years now, we've been continuing in 24/7 prayer, praying round the clock, non-stop on prayer rotas. We started that back in March 2020. But we're still continuing that. But what we're seeing is so many more people signing up for this prayer and participating in this prayer. There's a new enthusiasm for prayer in churches across the nation. And God moves in answer to prayer. And when you see prayer increasing in the church, good things are coming down the line. So one of the hopeful signs and encouraging signs that we're seeing is the increase in prayer. Another is how people are planning to share the gospel. There's a greater emphasis on evangelism. It's like some Christians had moved into survival mode. They were just trying to hold on to their faith in the midst of the pandemic and everything else. But now we're seeing a much greater emphasis on churches sharing the gospel and being really proactive in engaging in witness and evangelism. And again, that's not just 1 or 2 churches. We're seeing this happening across so many congregations across Ireland. And that is so encouraging. The third thing that we're hearing great reports of and that I'm seeing on my travels is churches filling up again. For a long time after COVID, we were remarking on this phenomenon where a lot of churches hadn't lost people, but people were coming less often. And so the numbers were still sparser in services. Now, people were still attached to the churches, in most cases were still giving to their churches, but being much less regular in their attendance. And as a result, a lot of pastors were starting to feel demoralized. But we're beginning to see buildings filling up again. I've been in some services recently that have just been packed once more, and people are just determined to meet together, to worship together, and are pursuing the face of God. So these all add up to encouraging signs: the increase in prayer, the increase in witness and evangelism, and all the reports we're hearing about churches being packed out as we move into this first few weeks of this year. These are all encouraging signs. And I do believe that this is a new season for the church. It's time to push on ahead into what God has for us in the future. Yes, we might have been through a bit of a winter, but now we're moving into a different season and a better season. And I'm so full of excitement to see what God is going to do in his church over the weeks, months, and this year or more ahead, in Jesus' name. It might be Friday, but Sunday's coming.